This weak virgin boy gets transported to an entirely different world alone where he is forced to fight with monsters and find food himself to survive each day. A young man lives in a monotonous routine where every day feels the same, a stability he thinks should comfort him but only leaves him yearning for change. One evening after work, he switches on the TV and is suddenly pulled inside, confronted by a figure who claims to oversee the solar system. Startled, he asks if this makes the stranger an alien, but the being explains he is more like a divine middle manager of the universe. Frustrated, the overseer laments the endless failures of a planet called Medius, where civilizations repeatedly collapse. He insists that even a single drop can alter the course of the world, and he wants this ordinary Japanese worker to be that drop. The man learns he is already dead. Refusal means his soul vanishes forever, but acceptance grants him passage to Medius with special abilities of his choosing. As an example, the overseer shows extreme magical potential in his ledger. Eager, the worker requests pleasant female companions and improved recognition skills to identify valuable materials, both of which the overseer promises to grant. He's granted a pouch for storage, instant knowledge of the local language, and several resistances. Then his body starts fading, terrifying him, until the supervisor calmly says it's time to go. Realizing he may have given too many gifts, the man knows it's already too late. The ordinary office worker is sent to a fantasy world, where he opens his eyes to breathtaking scenery that leaves him stunned. Unsure of what to do, he decides to seek people and soon spots a distant village. Without money for food, he recalls his recognition ability and thinks he can gather materials to sell. Testing it, he picks up a stick as a wand and shouts a command, but nothing happens, leaving him embarrassed. Writing the words "search in the dirt" and repeating it aloud, glowing symbols appear, guiding him to scattered resources. Realizing the need for correct command words, he experiments with others like check, investigate, and scan. To his surprise, one works, opening a panel that details a flower's traits. Excited, he collects items all around, though most turn out to be disappointingly low-ranked. He accidentally picks up what he later realizes is a lump of dung, but the mishap teaches him that tradable items appear with icons trackable by recognition magic. After gathering enough, he rushes to the village, eager to learn their value before nightfall. At the gate, a drowsy guard questions him, and the young man introduces himself as Takeru. Surprised by his height, the guard guesses he's a warrior, but Takeru explains he only came to sell materials. The guard, a patrolman of the village, notes it's rare to see someone skilled in gathering and directs him to the general store since there's no dedicated materials shop. As Takeru enters, villagers eye him curiously. At the store, he shows the merchant the dung, who identifies it as hammer antler excrement and praises its unique qualities, offering 5 silver coins. Unsure of its worth, Takeru asks the inn's price, learning one night costs 500 yen while silver is worth 1,000. Realizing the dung equals about 50,000 yen, he's shocked such filth is so valuable and even more disturbed watching the merchant lovingly rub it against his cheek. The shopkeeper, intrigued, asks to see more of the traveler's goods and is stunned when Takeru's pouch reveals even rarer items. Curious about his presence in such a remote town, he learns that the young man has been roaming and gathering materials. Seizing the chance, the merchant offers him a job to collect mithril ore from the eastern mountain, warning that monsters inhabit the area. Before that, he pays Takeru 360,000 raves, roughly 3.6 million yen, for the materials, an amount that shocks the boy. Later, Takeru finally secures a room, longing only for a bath. Instead, an inn worker barges in carrying a basin of hot water, explaining it costs 30 raves since commoners lack proper bathtubs, with only nobles or mages offering better alternatives, and no mages live in the village. Amused but uninterested in more talk, Takeru pays the fee with a small tip that delights her. Left alone, he reflects on the idea of magic as a way to cleanse the body. After some thought, the man tests a word as a spell and shouts "clean." The skill works, leaving Takeru spotless and glowing with joy, though he secretly wishes for a real bath. The next day, he returns to the forest near Torre, feeling more confident in collecting materials to sell. While searching, he discovers a sword icon marking a fallen warrior's remains, and despite the unimpressive weapons, he buries the body with care, using the sword as a grave marker. By afternoon, he draws a circle, speaks barrier, and watches his shield shimmer before fading, giving him peace of mind. He then cooks stew with village spices, forest vegetables, and meat, savoring the taste of his new life. When dawn arrives, Takeru heads toward the forest of white trees known as the Land of Ancient Dragons. In the eastern mountains where mithril was rumored to be, Takeru pushed through dark woods with only an orb of light, growing irritated at the lifeless silence. No ore, no creatures, nothing but emptiness. Maybe even monsters avoided his stench. Deciding to press on, he rushed toward the mountain, only to charge blindly off a cliff. By sheer luck, his desperate cry of "glide" activated a spell that slowed his fall, landing him gently in a hidden valley rich with silver veins. He set to work with his pickaxe, but remembered the merchant wanted mithril, not silver. Using search magic again, he sensed a faint signal deeper within a cavern, right as the ground began to tremble. With little time, he blasted through the rock using Ignite and Eruption, uncovering an A-rank mithril vein. The quake urged him to flee, yet his greed pulled him farther in, where at the back of the cave he stumbled upon a spring of crystal-clear water. While examining the material, Takeru realizes its S rank, his greatest find so far. The thought strikes him. If this water carries the mana of an ancient dragon, perhaps one once lived here. His suspicion is confirmed when the dragon itself rises from the lake. Instead of cowering, he withstands its pressure and apologizes for intruding, a habit carried over from his days as a Japanese laborer who bowed to everyone. Yet he never imagined bowing to a dragon. Amused, the beast asks who he is. Takeru introduces himself as an ordinary human, but the dragon senses otherwise, his power rivals its own. Introducing itself as Voldiez, the creature allows Takeru to call him Van when the boy casually asks. With the tension eased, Voldiez reveals his wish. A human's pure magic might awaken his dormant child's egg, long stilled by stagnant mana. In exchange, he offers mithril. Takeru agrees, and the dragon retrieves a massive black egg from the depths, instructing him to channel magic into it as he once did with his guiding light. Unsure, Takeru whispers heat, sending warmth into the shell, only for a far more unsettling reaction to erupt. The egg felt like it was consuming Takeru, driving his very skin inward as the dragon's laughter echoed through the cavern. He feared he'd been deceived, his adventure ending so pathetically, just when hope had begun to spark. His consciousness slipped into an astral sea where a mysterious figure appeared, chastising him for recklessly diving into danger. Any ordinary person would have fled before a dragon, yet Takeru's defiance seemed to warp the world's laws themselves. The being revealed had been shaping this realm for eons, but Takeru's presence spread disruptive ripples it could not ignore. Annoyed, it resolved to reduce some powers he had gained from the overseer of the solar system. Takeru awoke to a baby's babble within a void, followed by Voldiez's voice. Conjuring light, he discovered the dragon's child had hatched, jet black and full of life. As thanks, Voldiez allowed him to name the hatchling. Takeru chose B, short for black, though the dragon misunderstood it as B, and the name stuck. Declaring that the child must journey with Takeru, Voldiez entrusted the boy with a duty he found heavy but unavoidable. Before sinking back into the depths, the dragon cast a strange spell on Takeru's bag. Left with the newborn, Takeru invited B to join him in gathering supplies, only to realize the little creature reeked terribly. With a grimace, he used his cleaning skill to spare himself from an unbearably smelly trip. Takeru asks the little dragon if he feels lonely without his parents, but B simply hugs him, showing that being together is enough. Smiling, Takeru checks B's status and finds him to be a B rank with great potential. Still, since B is just a child, his friend warns him not to act recklessly, though in the end, it's Takeru who gets scolded by Voldiez. Meanwhile, B has already fallen asleep, unaware of their conversation. Takeru then recalls asking for a cute companion before arriving in this world. He's unsure if this tiny reptile is what he meant, but he suspects the odd manager planned it that way. Regardless, the two continue their journey with B flying happily as Takeru climbs a cliff. When he reaches the top, he realizes he's somehow returned to the same forest as before, but this time doesn't seem frightening. Believing it to be a strange magical forest, he begins searching for C-rank resources and activates his detection ability, thrilled to find various herbs. His excitement vanishes, however, when B rushes back in panic. Expanding his search, Takeru senses multiple hostile creatures drawing near. He once thought his scent repelled monsters, but it seemed to have worn off. Now exposed and surrounded, Takeru braces himself, ready to prove he's not an easy target. Takeru prepares for battle, confident in his strength. Soon, a massive C-rank rockhawk appears, though after facing Voldiez, it looks more like a chicken to him, perfect for lunch. Analyzing its meat as rich and fatty, he wastes no time. He conjures a magic shield, then fires ice needles that pierce and instantly kill the creature. But more enemies appear. 6 C-rank serpent wolves surround him and his dragon. Takeru enhances his speed and lightens his body, dodging a lunge before hardening his limbs. He kicks one wolf's neck, punches another into a third, strikes a fourth in the jaw, and finishes the last 2 with heavy slaps. After collecting their meat, he realizes the forest still teems with monsters and survival seems uncertain. Worried for his dragon partner, he helps him lift off by reducing his own weight. However, the dragon's sudden burst of strength sends them flying uncontrollably. Losing balance, the dragon drops Takeru from high above, but the boy's fall is luckily softened by the trees below. It was a miracle that Kamishiro Takeru survived, and B celebrated by licking his face with his foul-smelling tongue. Takeru complained about the manure stench but was too traumatized to move or react. Although B managed to get them out of the white tree forest, he somehow brought them back to the same campsite as yesterday. Takeru nearly scolded him but held back, knowing B only meant to help. He reminded the dragon that he was human, not a doll, but B didn't understand and instead hugged him tightly, overjoyed by his friend's presence. They resumed their journey to Tormi village, about a day's walk away. Along the way, B took interest in the stick Takeru carried, which turned out to be a dormant branch of Yggdrasil. Without permission, B infused it with mana, awakening it into a staff, something that clearly annoyed Takeru, who didn't want to be mistaken for a mage. Suddenly, a terrifying roar echoed from deep within the forest. B instantly grabbed Takeru and, filled with courage, flew toward the sound, forcing his human companion to chase after him. There they discovered an injured elf leaning against a tree. Takeru finds an exhausted elf and asks if she was attacked by the forest monster, only to realize she is the supposed monster. The terrifying roar he heard was just her stomach growling after 3 days without food. Weakly asking for water, she drinks eagerly, but her hunger persists, so Takeru offers her the lunch he got from the innkeeper. She devours it with bliss. Curious why she hadn't eaten when the village was nearby, he questions her. Flustered, she claims she was in a hurry, but when he teases her for not packing food, she gets irritated and releases a foul smell. Shocked, Takeru realizes not all elves smell like flowers. This one smells like fertilizer. Embarrassed, she insists she's been camping for days and thanks him before leaving, muttering that calling someone fertilizer-scented is rude. After she's gone, Takeru gathers more materials and comes across a carriage pulled by an E-rank unicorn. The friendly driver, Porin, offers him a ride after learning he's headed to Tormi village. When asked if he's a mage, Takeru says he's just a collector, though Porin mistakes him for a specialist. He doesn't bother correcting it and joins the family, Porin, his wife Eliza, and their children Kin and Yunin. The kids quickly warm up to him, easing their parents' trust. Grateful, Takeru admires their courage for traveling dangerous roads. Jokingly, he asks what they'd do if you were a bandit, and the boy proudly shows a magic item that rings when danger is near. Amused, Takeru thinks he can make something similar. When his small creature, B, squirms under his clothes, he reveals it but hides that it's a dragon's child. Porin jokes he must be a dragon knight, and Takeru awkwardly says he just found an egg. Eliza stays cautious, aware of how rare such creatures are. Intrigued by the idea of dragon knights, Takeru grows thoughtful, later setting up magic stones to alert them if monsters approach that night. B kept watch and would alert them if danger approached. The family completely trusted the dragon, which made Takeru wonder how they could place such faith in such a powerful creature. When Eliza offered to cook dinner, Takeru insisted on doing it himself as thanks. He amazed everyone by pulling ingredients from his bag and swiftly preparing a special meat salad. Eliza and the children loved it, but Porin seemed strangely quiet. Worried, Takeru asked if he used too much seasoning, only to learn that Porin was moved to tears. It was the first real meal they'd had after days of eating only dried meat. Seeing his children so happy filled him with joy, and he called Takeru a mage of cooking. After dinner, they sang together, and the warmth of the moment made Takeru think of his old life on Earth, how dull it had been to eat alone in silence. Tonight, for the first time in this world, he laughed from the heart. Later, as he lay down, he gently patted the sleeping bee, looked up at the starry sky, and smiled with quiet contentment. As dawn broke, Porin was already busy cleaning the carriage and washing away the rain while the children slept soundly with B nestled between them. Takeru, already awake, sat on the ground polishing his scissors until they gleamed. When Eliza stepped out after preparing everything, she greeted him warmly, saying that someone who cared for their tools would make a fine adventurer. Takeru smiled, realizing how much he had come to enjoy his life. Though he had become a gatherer by chance, he felt it suited him naturally. When it was time to leave, Takeru asked to tape the reins, and Porin agreed. Sitting beside him, Takeru guided the unicorn with ease, the creature responding to his every command as if it understood him perfectly. Soon B awoke, fluttered to Takeru's side, and perched near his legs as they rode smoothly onward. After a few peaceful hours, the Tori village appeared in the distance. At the gate, Takeru disembarked as Porin and his family thanked him for their shared journey before parting ways. The guard recognized Porin, joking that he always brought the spring with him. Curious, Takeru asked what he meant, and the guard explained that Porin, a traveling weaver, followed the warm seasons. His arrival in the village meant that spring and summer were close behind. The guard mentioned that hunting had become scarce in the area, making Takeru realize why Porin was so delighted with the food. Grateful to the gods for his gathering skills, he appreciated never having to worry about food or money. Later, he met the shopkeeper who had given him the quest and presented his findings. The shopkeeper carefully examined each item but was particularly drawn to one rock. When asked where he had found it, Takeru was confused, unaware that it was no ordinary mithril ore but a magical one. The shopkeeper explained that such ore was legendary, filled with immense mana capable of replacing all the kingdom's magic stones with just a few pieces. Shocked, Takeru pretended he had found it by chance, hiding his true ability. The shopkeeper didn't believe him, praising his talent and luck instead. He advised Takeru to leave the village for a larger city where he could sell such rare items and gain deeper knowledge of the world, suggesting he join a guild to improve his skills for future adventures. That night, Takeru relaxed in his room, researching guilds and adventurers. He realized becoming an adventurer could benefit him, but there was no rush. Deciding his next step would be to join a guild, he chose to stay in Tormi a bit longer. Days passed as he offered the beasts he had slain to be cooked for the whole village. With game scarce, everyone enjoyed the meal, even the local troublemakers marking his gesture a success. He spent more time wandering the village and gathering supplies before preparing to leave. The kind old lady gave him seasonings and spices for his journey, saying the villagers had grown fond of him and wished he'd stay. Takeru promised to return someday, but said he had to continue his travels. She also packed homemade meals for the long trip to Bell, which would take nearly a month, and told him to return if he ever felt homesick. Grateful, he thanked her and went back to his room, putting B to sleep for the journey ahead. As he lay down, he thought about the kindness the village had shown him and felt he should give something back in return. Takeru rose from his bed and walked to the table, gazing at the lantern and the mithril stone. Remembering how the village guards worked tirelessly to keep monsters away, he decided to use the stone's mana and his creativity to fuse the lantern into a magical item. The next morning, as he prepared to leave, the villagers gathered to see him off. Feeling a deep attachment to the place he now considered home, he gifted them the item, explaining that it could form a barrier to protect the village from monsters. The villagers were touched, but the shopkeeper examined it and discovered the mithril stone still inside. Before he could return it, Takeru ran off, shouting for him to keep it for the village. Waving goodbye, the villagers watched as Takeru began his new journey. The morning breeze brushed his face as he wandered through the open fields, enjoying the day until a massive crab monster appeared. Though startled, he checked its stats and saw it was a C-rank beast, manageable and, more importantly, edible. His fear turned to excitement as he grinned and told B that crab meat was delicious. Takeru prepared for battle, hardening his body with magic, but before he could act, B unleashed a supersonic blast that instantly took down the crab. As Takeru approached to finish it off, 2 more crabs appeared, circling him. He quickly devised a plan, assuming they could only move sideways, but to his shock, they charged straight at him. Just as he thought it was over, B grabbed him by the collar and lifted him away as the 2 crabs collided and died. The first crab, however, rose again and rushed toward them, but this time Takeru was ready. He swung his staff like a bat, smashing the creature to death. Later that evening, the 2 prepared a meal from their spoils. Takeru strengthened his hand with enchantments, chopped the crab legs, and cooked them with water and spices into a thick stew. When they finally tasted it, he was delighted by the flavor and told B how excited he was to explore more lands and taste more dishes of this new world. Despite the villagers' claims, reaching the city didn't take him a month. It stood nearby, a massive fortress bordered by the sea. Takeru queued with the other peasants to enter the city, but realizing he might stand out, he disguised his magic bag and told B to hide. When his turn came, the immigration officers checked his ID and belongings using a simple magic scan to confirm he wasn't a criminal or a threat. The inspection was relaxed and nothing unusual was found. Curious about how others saw his stats, Takeru realized the god had made him appear ordinary. The officer mentioned he had a dragon's blessing, which puzzled them, so Takeru revealed B, instantly charming everyone. The agent, though amused, asked him to tag the dragon for safety, so B fastened a bracelet around B's tail, completing their entry. Inside, the lively city amazed him, people of all races bustling about buying goods, training, and chatting. His attention soon fell on the Grand Adventurers Guild. Entering the hall, he was greeted by Ariana, a cheerful bunny girl who welcomed him and offered to help him register. Takeru agreed, and as she recorded his details, she asked about his combat experience. He admitted he hadn't done much, only fighting a strange bird, some snake wolves, and a few giant crabs. Ariana, puzzled, asked for proof, and Takeru casually pulls a dead crab from his pocket, slamming it on the table so hard it breaks. Terrified, Ariana rushes outside as the guild crowds around. A furry member checks Takeru with his special skill and assures Era that he isn't dangerous, explaining that his ability reveals a person's intent, red for hostility and blue for harmless. Since Takeru appears blue, he's safe. Relieved, Takeru is then asked why he carries a dead crab, to which he bluntly replies that he plans to eat it, shocking everyone since no one in this world eats crabs. Still, the guild is more tolerant than expected and lets it go. The furry urges Ariana to finish Takeru's registration and asks if he has any partners. Takeru replies that his only companion is his dragon, astonishing everyone since both dragons and gatherers are rare, and having both is almost unheard of. Attention quickly shifts toward him as several guilds invite him to join their parties. Ariana then leads him to another room, where instead of anything strange, Takeru receives the guild's mark on his application, officially making him an adventurer. He's given a copper bracelet marking him as rank F, the beginner level, but he doesn't mind. He's too busy imagining the adventures that await. Takeru quietly displays the valuable items he's gathered, but the mood is heavy. A grieving couple approaches him, the mother tearfully asking where he found their son in the forest near Taromi. Anger flickers through her sorrow as she mutters about her son's recklessness, but she softens, thanking Takeru for bringing them closure. The items before him are revealed to be the belongings of their slain son Baloria. Later, Takeru sits with a furry discussing supplies. He reports that he's got 8 abrar leaves, 6 mullein roots, and 20 abaz mushrooms. The cat marvels at the size of the mushrooms and praises Takeru's skills, offering him a position on the spot. Takeru humbly accepts. A rabbit-eared girl, Ariana, rushes in with news of new quests, suggesting Takeru could handle them all. He smiles, saying he'll take a few, mainly gathering ingredients and brewing potions, before setting out. Sometime later, he's seen relaxing in a hot spring. It's been 2 weeks since arriving in Belkame, and he recalls restoring the once filthy bath with his abilities. His peace is interrupted when a lizard man, Clayston, enters. Surprised, Takeru asks why he's there. Clayston mentions his old scars aching and warns of coming rain before asking if the rumors are true that Takeru healed a sick man for free. Takeru nods calmly. Takeru always tried to do good. Clayston advised him to use his ability wisely. He could make a fortune, but kindness could also make him a target. The more he learned about the world, the stronger he became, Clayston said, promising he'd one day be the best. Takeru simply replied that he needed to sharpen his shears and head for the green forest. The scene shifted to the guild, where the cat-like master happily paid him for his gathered items, saying he was close to a higher rank. Takeru declined, thinking that a promotion would only bring more trouble. Staying low-ranked meant freedom and less responsibility. Suddenly, a guard rushed in, shouting that goblins were attacking the village. The guild erupted into motion, calling for all healers and medics to gather at the North Station. As Takeru walked off, he muttered that it wasn't his problem, but a guild official stopped him, ordering him to join. Shocked, Takeru stood as the leader laid out the strategy. The goblins were advancing through the southern plains toward Belkame, and they must be stopped before crossing the river bridge. The room filled with energy as everyone prepared for battle, except for Takeru, who stood gloomily while 2 adventurers mocked him, telling him not to get them killed with his lack of enthusiasm. Takeru didn't want anyone to get in trouble, though he expected Clayston to be fighting on the front lines. Clayston's face darkened as he admitted his old wounds were acting up, his body refusing to move properly. He turned to show a deep scar on his back, a mark many would mistake as proof of cowardice. Looking down, he quietly said he got it while protecting someone. Takeru regarded him with respect, saying that as long as he lived, he could protect others again. Suddenly, a distant noise drew their attention. The commander's formation had been breached and enemies were closing in. Despite his condition, Clayston charged forward. Takeru shouted in shock, reminding him of his injury, but Clayston insisted he protect them even if his body broke apart. Watching him run, Takeru worried. He couldn't protect anyone if he fell. Glancing back, he saw Musley tending the wounded with her friends, reassuring them to stay calm and survive together. Remembering the guild master's words, protect what you want to protect, Takeru decided he couldn't hold back anymore. He raised a barrier around the area and told them they were safe before rushing to join Clayston. The battlefield was chaos. Monsters and adventurers clashed, the line barely holding. Arriving just in time, Takeru unleashed his magic, cutting down the monsters. Even as he fought, he thought to himself that facing humanoid enemies would be much harder. There's no time to think. Takeru orders B to unleash his power, wiping out the enemies around them. Soon after, he finds his friends. One of them tells him they were attacked by a goblin corporal that caused the front line to collapse. They escaped thanks to Clayston, but got separated. Meanwhile, Clayston is seen fighting alone against a swarm of monsters until Takeru arrives just in time to save him. Clayston warns him not to stay, saying his condition is worsening in this weather. Takeru insists they should retreat and plan another attack, but the sound of more monsters interrupts them. Clayston refuses to leave while Takeru argues that he and B can handle it. Suddenly, the goblin corporal appears and launches an attack. Clayston shouts for Takeru to live and offers to buy him time, but Takeru won't abandon him. B releases another surge of power, and Takeru throws an item to Clayston that heals his wounds and transforms him into a massive draconic being. Shocked, Clayston asks what Takeru did. Takeru explains it was to ease his pain and make him stronger. Feeling power surge through his body, Clayston roars that he feels young again before charging at the monsters, annihilating them with overwhelming strength and speed. When the battle ends, Takeru looks on in awe as Clayston celebrates, overjoyed to have regained his vitality and power. The guildmaster approaches Takeru and asks if he was the one who unleashed the power. Takeru admits he used magical water to fully heal Clayston, then cast a spell that restored his youth and strength. Amazed by his power, the guildmaster asks who he really is, but Takeru simply replies that he's just an F-rank adventurer skilled at gathering resources. Impressed, the guildmaster promises him a generous reward for his help. Later that night, Clayston visits Takeru's room, still shaken by what happened. Though his body looks normal, he confesses something fiery still burns inside him. Takeru explains he used pure elemental water from the ancient dragon Val, B's father, believing skin absorption would hasten the healing. He admits it was an emergency and he did what he could. Clayston is astonished that Takeru can perform such advanced healing magic, but Takeru insists he only mimicked something he once saw, enhancing the effect by visualizing the body's structure and focusing on the nerves in the back. Curious, Clayston asks who Takeru really is. Takeru hesitates, thinking revealing his identity would cause chaos and destroy his peaceful life, yet he feels responsible for Clayston's transformation. Seeing his unease, Clayston gently says it seems to be a burden matter for him. Clayston starts to leave after saying he won't ask again and apologizing for prying, but Takeru stops him. "I'll tell you," he says calmly. He trusts him, then says that he's from another world. Clayston freezes, confused by the strange confession. Takeru notices his expression and continues, explaining that some people are reborn through reincarnation, a soul gaining a new body after death. He admits he died once and was reborn in this body. The revelation leaves Clayston speechless, his mind slowly grasping the truth though his heart resists believing it. He then looks at Takeru with mixed emotions and says that he healed my old wound and turned him into a dragon kin, the original ancestor of the lizardman race. He's proud to carry such noble blood, but it terrifies him and he's scared he'll lose control and destroy everything, though maybe he can adapt with time. His hands tighten into fists, struggling against the fear of losing himself to this new power. Takeru reassures him that he'll be fine as long as he keeps calm and doesn't let anger take over. Later, the scene shifts to Takeru walking through the bustling city streets. He enters a weapon shop planning to buy a sword, and a young woman behind the counter greets him with a friendly smile. Takeru asks the shopkeeper if she sells scissors for gathering materials, explaining his are worn out. The woman says they don't, but recognizes him as the well-known material gatherer. When he confirms it, she introduces herself as Ribble and offers help, saying her master Grusus is a top-class blacksmith who might assist him if Takeru helps fetch something the old man needs. Accepting, Takeru follows her into the forge, admiring the craftsmanship as Ribble proudly says she fell in love with the fire and dreams of stealing her master's technique to forge a hero's sword. Takeru wishes her luck before they meet Grusus, who immediately questions his presence. Ribble explains who Takeru is, but Grusus doubts the newcomer's reputation. Takeru humbly says it's just luck. Ribble suggests he could gather ore for the sword they plan to enter in the craftsman exhibition, but Grusus refuses, calling the mine too dangerous. When she presses him about the deadline, he snaps, yet she taunts him to forge with poor materials if he dares call himself a master. Furious, Grusus warns her that Ryohei isn't just filled with monsters, it's rumored to house demons. Ribble, realizing her mistake, admits she's heard the same and hadn't warned Takeru. Grusus scolds her, saying a smith who doesn't value life has no right to hold a hammer. Grusus appreciates Takeru's effort in bringing the gatherer but refuses to risk young lives out of desperation. Impressed by his conviction, Ribble apologizes and asks Takeru to forget the matter. Instead, Takeru calmly offers cookies, revealing he knows the Uldra ore lies in the dangerous Ryohei mine, and requests Grusus to forge him custom scissors as payment if he retrieves it. When Grusus questions if he understands the danger, Takeru confidently shows a beast body part he defeated, one that even rank B adventurers would fear, convincing them to let him go. Soon, he rides a carriage bound beyond Ira village toward the mine under Vosra Olaf's watch. During the trip, B complains about craving crab, and Takeru sighs that they've run out. Passengers chat about strange incidents like herbs withering overnight at Robert's Pass and unrest in the forest of white trees, while Takeru silently hopes none of it was his fault. In a village stop with a horse trader, he muses about owning a horse someday until he hears a familiar elf arguing with the trader. She demands a pure white steed that can soar, but he shows her a giant white raven, insisting anything that hauls cargo counts as a horse. Embarrassed, she apologizes, and the trader suggests she look for a white Pegasus in Vazrael, the Dwarven Kingdom. Grateful, she leaves, and Takeru realizes they share the same destination. Takeru tells B they'll gather materials along the way, collecting Nerite's green mushrooms with white spots, red-capped grove shrooms, and moonite grass that heals when crushed. While cutting some, a growl draws his attention to the same elf, now weak and starving. He feeds her and offers water, and as she thanks him, he instinctively uses clean magic, apologizing for acting on impulse. She smiles, introduces herself as Velvereta Brawlate, and insists on repaying his kindness by helping with his work. Amused by B's approval, Takeru agrees until they reach the next town. While gathering mushrooms, Vel proudly shows her rare finds, which Takeru's appraisal reveals to be a rock, some poop, and a poisonous mushroom. Vel gasps, then burst into laughter with B, calling it terrifying, while Takeru silently noted their thoughts weren't far apart. As the sun set, she ignored his offer of magic stones and went to gather firewood, wanting to leave a sign that the place was safe. When she returned with the whole log, she tossed it into the air and split it midair with her daggers, stunning Takeru. His appraisal revealed them as Sylph Jambia, rank a high elf weapons blessed by air spirits and usable only by chosen bloodlines. Later, Takeru cooked his favorite soup, which Vel and B devoured with delight, making him quietly pleased. Between bites, Vel asked his destination, and he told her about the Ruhai mine and the Ildrip ore. When he asked about her goal, she spoke of finding the white Pegasus her sister once dreamed of, but his focus slipped, seeing crumbs on her face. After wiping them, she laughed and joked about her growing food debt. Takeru told her to repay it by becoming his bodyguard, and though surprised, she took it as fate and a blessing from the goddess Livrolina, happily agreeing. Her enthusiasm impressed him, until her snoring kept him awake all night. By morning, his tired eyes followed her gesture toward the dwarven kingdom across the river. He compared it to the Hotaka Mountains, though she didn't understand. At a local restaurant, while he enjoyed the dwarven dish, Vel said it matched her friend's description. Expecting another elf, Takeru was startled when she said her friend was a lizard man, the honorary dragon king and holy dragon knight of the Stolfus Empire, who might pass through Belheim. Just then, Clayson appeared, confirming it was more than coincidence. Vel greeted him warmly, but he scolded Takeru for leaving without notice. Takeru argued he'd informed the guild vaguely, earning a sigh from Clayston. When Takeru mentioned the Ruhai mine, Clayston warned it was beyond his rank, but Takeru insisted it was urgent. Despite the danger, he cheerfully added that Grusus promised him the ultimate scissors and maybe a pot or pan later. Half amused, Clayston couldn't tell if he was kind or naive, while Takeru declared that for a gatherer, scissors mattered more than any sword. With no other choice, Clayston agrees to join Takeru on his trip to the mine, mentioning he was headed to Vosrael anyway to repair his spear. Takeru hesitates, but Vel cheerfully declares Clayston her fellow bodyguard, and amused he accepts. Despite their skills, Takeru remains uneasy. The next day, they arrive at Vosrael to find the entrance crowded. While Takeru grumbles about how all cities feel the same, Clayston casually speaks to a guard who lets them in immediately. When Takeru questions it, Clayston says he just greeted an old friend. The guard welcomes them to the dwarven kingdom of Vosrael, once a mining settlement within vast iron caves, leaving Takeru amazed at the underground city. Then the guard informs Clayston that the king requests his presence, shocking Takeru even more when he learns Clayston knows the king. Clayston calls it a complicated history, but the guard clarifies that he's the hero who saved them from the Thunder King Zengum. Embarrassed, Clayston downplays the tale, claiming the demon ran at the sight of him. The guard proudly mentions a statue made in his honor, which everyone admires except Clayston, who's mortified since it looks nothing like him. When he meets King Zorodine, his first complaint is the statue's ugliness. Takeru then delivers a letter from Grusus Pendrasis of the Belkin Blacksmith Guild, requesting mine access for materials. Zorodine, recognizing Grusus, explains that the mine became a demon nest after a tremor months ago. Despite this, Takeru insists on exploring, and Clayston assures the king that Takeru and Vel can handle it. Impressed, Zorodine assigns them to uncover the cause of the demon activity. Though reluctant, Takeru follows along. They soon meet Zambo, the guild's head receptionist, who leads them into the tunnels. Using a light spell, Takeru studies the minerals, noting weak energy traces that surprise Zambo. As they go deeper, B senses danger, and Clayston warns everyone to take cover. A monster charges, but the trio defeats it quickly, Vel finishing it off with her daggers. At a dead end, Takeru senses something behind the wall, sets a barrier, and blasts it open to reveal glowing hydrite veins, rare rank minerals close to magic stones. Suddenly, B warns again, and Zambo yells that a demon is approaching. Takeru's eyes narrow as he tells the others to stand back just before a giant crab demon bursts from the shadows. Takeru and B began celebrating, confusing the rest of the group. The monster, however, wasn't in the mood and suddenly attacked with its shell, forcing them to dodge. Clayston and Brawlite identified it as a Trango crab, a ranked creature that demanded teamwork. Ignoring the warning and seeing it as lunch, Takeru told everyone to stay back, buffed himself, and joined B in the fight. B roared, staggering the crab while Takeru struck its head with his staff, barely scratching its tough shell. When the boys struggled to dodge its attacks, B froze one of its legs, and Takeru used his scan ability to find its weak points before launching ice spears that froze the entire creature. Brawlite and Zambo admired the icy corpse, but Clayston was far from pleased. He demanded to know why they acted alone, his aura intimidating them. Takeru explained they wanted to keep the meat clean and were used to such monsters. Still, Clayson reminded him that he was there as Takeru's bodyguard and that even with strong magic, he must stay calm, trust his allies, and fight as a team. He added that he and Brawlite would never ignore Takeru's wishes, so he should learn to trust them more. The boy and his pet bowed their heads under the scolding, but Clayton smiled and patted them both, showing there was no harm done before ordering the others to collect the monster's parts. Hours later, after scouring nearly the entire cave and gathering heaps of ore, Takeru still detected powerful readings deep below, hinting at even greater treasures. Amazed, Zambo marveled that this same boy who defeated the labyrinth's demon had also discovered such riches in dwarven lands. Overwhelmed by memories of earthquakes, distortions, and monsters born from Magicula, he wept. Takeru then wondered if purifying Voldius Magicula had caused more change than he realized. Perhaps that was what the dragon meant by a drop that could change the world. Though he had always acted on instinct, maybe he truly was altering the world piece by piece, and he hoped it was for the better. When they returned to King Zorwadin, Takeru reported that the mine had been explored and the threat eliminated. The king turned his envoy, and Zambo eagerly confirmed it, claiming he hadn't even blinked from how unbelievable it was. To prove it, the dwarf asked Takeru to show the demon's remains. Takeru dropped the frozen corpse before the throne, and as the ground shook beneath its weight, the king broke into a cold sweat, trembling before the monstrous presence. The corpse proved Kamishio Takeru's incredible achievement, earning him a reward of equal value. To everyone's surprise, he requested to keep the demon itself, a demand Zorwadin couldn't comprehend. Having secured his prize, Takeru bethought only of turning the alien crab's meat into sashimi and using its shell to craft new collection shears. The next day, Brawlite was stunned to see a legendary Pegasus brought as her royal reward, along with Clayton's fully repaired spear. Mounting the creature, she said she must return home to deliver it to her sister, but before leaving, she confessed she owed Takeru a debt she could never repay. The boy, indifferent, was simply happy with his house-sized crab. When Clayton announced the carriage's arrival, Takeru bid farewell to Brawlite, who laughed wickedly as she flew off, vowing to reunite with her comrades. He figured that something only an enemy would say, but since she was gone, he ignored it. Back at the guild, Ariana warmly greeted him, surprised to see Clayton by his side. Before Takeru could explain, the lizard stated they had formed a temporary party for an indefinite time. The receptionist excitedly rushed to tell Wade the news. Takeru shot his companion a glare, but the lizard merely said he was a wanderer with no destination, and that someone had to keep an eye on Takeru's reckless ideas. Though Takeru found Clayton a bit moralistic, he admitted traveling with him could be interesting. Later, the two sat in the guild and agreed on Clayton's idea for their group's name, the Blue and Black Brigade. After leaving, Takeru delivered the Eldrita ore to the master blacksmith, Growlus Pendras. Seeing the strange reactions of the blacksmith and his assistant, he feared he had brought the raw material, but both men were actually overwhelmed with joy. Ribble praised the ore's flawless shine and density, while Growlithe, crying himself, told the girl not to cry, and the two hugged, sobbing in happiness. Feeling awkward yet touched, Takeru thanked them, and the dwarf admitted he had never seen so much Eldrita in his 120 years. Though Takeru knew the ore was perfect, he hadn't expected such a reaction. Still, seeing their joy made him feel truly proud to be a collector, until Ribble confessed they couldn't afford to pay for all the stones since there were far more than expected. Takeru claimed he only wanted a custom pair of scissors, but he'd also asked the blacksmiths to use all the ores to forge a sword worthy of first prize at the exhibition. Half a month later, he was drinking at a tavern with his dragon companion when Wade arrived, saying someone important had summoned him. The letter Wade handed over bore the seal House Lucilevac. When Takeru asked if it meant the Lord of Belcame, Wade clarified it was in nearby territory under the same city. Expecting trouble, Takeru listened as Wade explained that Lord Belminate was noble but not unpleasant. Opening the letter, Takeru read an invitation addressed to him and Gildius Clayton of the Blue and Black Brigade, granting honors for their victory on the plains of Stavro. Both suspected the noble's real aim might be to claim the rare dragon, but Wade assured them Belminate lacked such authority. Takeru dismissed the worry and suggested getting sashimi by the coast instead. Later, the Blue and Black Brigade rode a luxurious carriage through town, drawing stares from every villager, much to Takeru's discomfort. Clayton told Takeru that being summoned by a noble was every adventurer's dream, as one endorsement could change a life. When they arrived in Balame's noble district, Takeru was awed by House Lucilac, home of the Belminate family. The mansion looked like a castle with a butler named Raymond leading them in and maids greeting in perfect sync. His admiration ended when a haughty girl appeared, eyeing B and demanding the dragon. When Takeru refused, she was offended, believing only nobles deserved such creatures. Scanning her, he learned she was Tiaris March Lucibach, the count's daughter. Calmly kneeling, he asked why she thought she had any right to be. Tiaris said Bernard told her of the adventurer with the dragon and advised her to act firm to get it. Controlling his anger, Takeru explained B was family, not property. Realizing her arrogance, Tiaris apologized and B forgave her with a cheerful hug. Curious, Takeru asked why she wanted a dragon. She said it was for her ailing mother just as her father appeared. To Takeru's surprise, the youthful man was Count Belmonent himself. Inviting them for tea, the Count apologized for Tiaris' behavior and explained his wife Militia had been bedridden for 6 months. Having heard of Takeru's healing in Boso, he begged for help. Though cautious about his dangerous magic, Takeru listened as Belmonent revealed Tiaris wanted a dragon to comfort her mother. Moved, Clayston and B grew emotional while Takeru stayed wary of the nobles. After some thought, he agreed to help. In the sick room, the stale air made B sneeze. Belmonent introduced his wife and explained Takeru's power. When Takeru asked for more light, the Count said she was sensitive to it. A quick scan showed cataracts, anemia, kidney disease, gait disorder, and ivor poisoning. Takeru said he could ease her light sensitivity and joint pain. When he asked if she truly trusted him, Militia weakly said she'd risk anything just to hug her daughter again. Hearing this, Belmonent pleaded for Takeru to save her. As Belmonent tearfully begged Takeru to save his wife, Mulatiria, Takeru agreed to help. When Clayston asked if he would use the same healing method as before, Takeru declined, explaining that it required too much mana and could kill her in her frail state. Instead, he decided to treat her symptoms, starting with her sensitive eyes that hurt even in faint sunlight. Carefully using a low-powered healing spell, he restored her sight little by little until he asked her to open her eyes. When she did, Mulatiria was overjoyed to see clearly again. Smiling, Takeru pulled out his staff and cast a powerful spell that cleaned the entire room and opened the windows, letting sunlight stream in. Belmonent anxiously asked his wife how she felt, and she cried with relief, saying the light no longer hurt her eyes. As the couple wept with joy, Takeru noticed a butler and several maids watching from behind, something about the butler feeling suspicious. He quietly suggested to Belmonent that they move to the study. There, Takeru revealed that Mulatiria was suffering from ivor poisoning, and Belmonent instantly understood that someone had been deliberately poisoning her. Takeru worries most about not knowing enough about ivor poison to cure Mulatiria. When he asks Belmonent if there's an antidote, the noble sadly explains that none exists, as both the poison and the knowledge to counter it were lost to time. Takeru argues that if someone can still make the poison, the knowledge must remain somewhere, suggesting they recreate it to find a cure. Clayston points out they don't even know the ingredients, but Belmonent suddenly recalls that his ancestors collected ancient records that might hold clues. Though written in an old language, Takeru easily translates them using his language skill. Unsure which book to check, he searches for anything about poison and discovers a diary mentioning the ivor plant. A diary written by someone calling themselves the cutest adventurer ever describes a rock shaped like a winged horse beside a lake and golden flowers nearby. As Takeru reads it in an over-the-top voice, Clayston quickly silences him, saying he recognizes the place mentioned. Takeru studies a map showing a lake beyond Belmonent's territory, marked by a Pegasus statue, believing the ivor might be there. Though the journey takes 5 days by carriage, he decides to leave immediately, prompting Belmonent to prepare while his butler observes and sends a messenger pigeon. Before departing, Takeru places a barrier stone outside Mulatiria's room to protect her from harm. Tiaris rushes in to apologize for her earlier rudeness, and Takeru forgives her, advising her to learn from mistakes and think carefully before judging others. He warns her that after he leaves, some might slander him as a villain or scammer, and tells her to report such claims to her father. After she agrees, Takeru and Clayston mount their unicorns and set off. Using weight-altering spells, Takeru boosts their speed, and they arrive sooner than expected, only to find the once-thriving village desolate. Clayston notes its sudden decline, and Takeru hopes the lake still remains, but Clayston assures him that it's far too vast to have dried up. The lake's condition is far worse than the surrounding area, its water polluted and dead trees floating within. After examining it, Takeru discovers it's been poisoned with a toxin from a buffalo monster's horn. He tells Clayston it was done deliberately, but before he can explain further, the frightened villagers arrive to drive them away. Seeing their frail state, Takeru calmly explains that they're adventurers collecting rare materials. The villagers don't believe him until Clayston shows his armband, making them lower their weapons. When Takeru asks about the situation, one villager suddenly collapses from hunger, and Takeru realizes they've been starving. The villagers then lead them to their ruined village and explain that 10 months ago, the lake was poisoned, killing all the fish and contaminating the groundwater. Desperate, they accepted help from a merchant named Enash, who offered water in exchange for a sacred golden flower that grew near the lake, a secret their village had protected for generations. Since then, they've been giving him 1 flower per month for 60 barrels of water, barely enough to survive but not to grow crops, leaving them in constant hunger. Takeru finally understands the situation and tells the villagers that Ingash is clearly the villain, but they refuse to believe him since Ingash has been helping them. Annoyed, Takeru urges them to think about how suspicious his timing was, revealing that the lake was deliberately poisoned and that Ingash, who demands a poisonous flower every month for water, must be the culprit. The villagers are shaken, but Takeru, furious, vows to destroy Ingash and his schemes. Before that, he helps the starving villagers by asking Bee to summon rain with his spirit magic. As the rain falls, bringing life and hope, Takeru tells Bee to stop and then gives everyone a magical shower, cleaning them for the first time in months. He repairs their damaged homes and uses his giant wok to cook a hearty stew for everyone. Grateful, the village chief thanks him and asks how they can repay him, but Takeru simply requests to harvest the flowers for an antidote. The chief agrees, but before continuing, the village children arrive and invite Takeru to play. Though the chief tries to send them away, Takeru smiles, saying he enjoys seeing them healthy, and follows them to their secret base, a warehouse filled with fruits from the nearby trees. The kids' leader tells Takeru that only the flower nectar is sweet while the fruits are too salty, so they throw them away. Curious, Takeru uses his skill to analyze the fruit but gets no result. Noticing a brown liquid oozing out, he tastes it and realizes it's soy sauce, the flavor he'd long missed. Meanwhile, in Belmonent's mansion, an alarm suddenly goes off and Tierras rushes to her mother's room. The alarm was a magic device Takeru had installed to detect anyone with malicious intent. As Tierras arrives, she finds Bernard, the butler, inside and nervously demands he stay away. When she accuses him of trying to harm her mother, Bernard feigns calmness and mocks Takeru, calling adventurers greedy scammers who set up useless devices to steal money. He asks whether she'll trust a stranger over a loyal servant, causing her to panic. Just then, Belmonent arrives and Tierras hurriedly reports everything. After hearing both sides in his office, Belmonent sides with Bernard, suspecting Takeru of deceit. Takeru knew he had improved Mulatiria's condition, and his alarm warned that Bernard posed a threat. To confirm it, Belmonent decided to test him. When the head butler entered with a jug of water, Bernard panicked. Belmonent poured him a glass, saying he needed proof of innocence. Claiming the water would hasten Mulatiria's recovery, he told Bernard to drink it. Flustered, Bernard hesitated until Belmonent splashed it on his. He then ordered his guards to arrest the butler. Moments later, the head butler handed him a coded letter found in Bernard's room, leaving Belmonent stunned by the mastermind's cleverness. Meanwhile, in Gash, a merchant arrived at the village chief's home demanding the golden ivory flower. A villager informed him the chief was touring with adventurers and warned that the flower was poisonous, refusing the request. Prepared for this, the merchant summoned his goons to act quickly, while the chief guided Takeru and Cleiston through a hidden cave to the field of golden ivory flowers beside a majestic Pegasus statue. Takeru admires the stunning lakeside view, and after studying the Pegasus statue, he turns his attention to the ivory. He discovers the flowers bloom only here, born from the tears of the divine beast Huffle. Curious, he asks the village chief about it and learns that Helfalpner, the winged horse who once saved the village from lake demons, became their revered guardian. Everyone knows the ivory came from its tears. When Takeru asks if it's truly alright to take something so precious, the old man insists that their savior may take as many as he wishes. Relieved, Takeru plucks just one, believing it's sufficient for an antidote, and begins thinking about testing the soy sauce fruit until a scream interrupts him. A villager rushes in, breathless, announcing that Ingek has set the village on fire. Takeru and Cleiston immediately carry the chief and others back, only to find the homes engulfed in flames. Takeru works with Bee to extinguish the fire while Cleiston leads the evacuation. They manage to contain the disaster, but the houses collapse into rubble. The guard reports that no one was seriously hurt, which is the best outcome they could hope for. When Takeru demands to know what caused the blaze, the guard explains that Ingechi came seeking the ivory flowers. Takeru already knew the flowers were poisonous, so he refused to hand them over, enraging the merchant, who immediately ordered the village burned. As chaos spread, Takeru's fury was interrupted by the chief's panic when Gansa vanished. Suspecting Ingach, he confirmed it when an old woman revealed she'd seen the merchant dragging the boy toward the lake. His anger spiked, and he used his search skill at full power, detecting human presence in a nearby abandoned fortress. He told Cleiston Ingach had around 100 men, but Cleiston dismissed the warning and charged off on his unicorn. The chief begged them not to go, yet Takeru assured him they'd defeat the merchant and bring Gansa back. At the fortress, Takeru scouted the area and spotted the bandits partying, but before he could plan, Cleiston turned into Kaiju number 8, furious that they were celebrating after kidnapping a child. Takeru understood but urged him to stay calm for Gansa's sake. He formed a plan, cast invisibility on them both, and they slipped past drunk guards, knocking one out on the way. Seeing all the bandits gathered above, Cleiston agreed to let Takeru stay invisible and deal with them, noting Takeru had been gathering everything in the fortress, which he claimed was evidence of their crimes. They searched every room but found no trace of Gansa, so Cleiston headed straight for Ingach to force the truth out of him and Takeru followed. Outside Ingach's room, they overheard the bandits drinking and bragging about burning the village, failing to get the flowers, and kidnapping Gansa to learn their location. Their leader boasted they were close to raising the price of Ivor poison, explaining that once word spread Belmonent couldn't save his own wife from it. Everyone would want the poison to kill their enemies. Before he could say more, Ingach smashed a bottle into his neck to silence him. Hearing that, Clayston said he couldn't hold back his rage any longer. Takeru lets Clayston rampage as long as he doesn't kill, so Clayston drops his invisibility, smashes the door, and plunges the bandits into chaos. Ingach panics, orders their unstable secret weapon released, and wonders how things fell apart so fast. Takeru appears beside him, casually suggests moving the kids somewhere safe, and Ingach, mistaking him for a minion, accidentally reveals Gansa's location before realizing he's talking to no one. Takeru is already heading for the outhouse, where a Lominoid guard is stuck on duty. Be asked to take him down, Takeru allows it, and the baby dragon blasts through the door, knocking the guard out. Takeru calls for Gansa, finds him, breaks the lock, and the terrified boy clings to him as he promises to take him home. But as they step outside, the bandits are fleeing and massive tentacles rise over the fortress. Definitely not Clayston. He grabs a fleeing bandit, hears claims of a lake demon, doubts it, but decides he must deal with it. He tells Gansa to run, but the boy refuses, too scared to let go. Realizing the danger, Takeru wraps them in a barrier and charges into the fight, reaching Clayston and spotting the truth. A gigantic dark anemone, a B-rank monster Ingach summoned. The merchant cowers nearby, and though Takeru wants to let the monster eat him, he still shields him when it attacks to keep him alive for answers. He tells Clayston they're withdrawing, but Clayston is tangled in the tentacles, so Takeru freezes the whole creature with powerful ice magic, stunning him. He explains they must destroy its brain, prompting Clayston to punch its face, but instead of dying, the frozen anemone fires its hardened tentacles at Takeru. Unable to summon a barrier in time, he blocks with his staff, the force launching him and Gansa over the wall. Mid-air, he throws Gansa upward for B to catch as he himself plunges into the poisoned lake, sinking as he believes his end has finally arrived. He thinks he could never abandon someone in need, even if it cost his life, and though he doesn't regret it, he still feels the weight of everything he'll never experience. As he sinks, the black-haired man notices and saves him, believing Takeru is genuinely helping the world. Floating in the water, Takeru ignores a distant voice and instead thinks about the soy sauce dishes he wanted to cook, his friends, and the custom scissors he never received. The impatient caller eventually drags him out, revealing a white Pegasus. Still dazed, he introduces himself and she names herself Halfalpner, a name he faintly remembers. Trying to understand where he is, he asks if this is her home and apologizes for falling in. She tells him his fall was a blessing, the lake suddenly purified, and the plants revived. She explains that the lake's magic had stagnated, weakening her until she used her last strength to create Ivor flowers to keep it clean, turning herself to stone. The flowers survived, but Ingach later polluted the lake on purpose. When Takeru fell in, he absorbed the poison and freed her. Halfalpner then returns him to his friends, and he tells them the Pegasus god saved him. Only Takeru can see or hear her, and she quietly thanks him before disappearing. They return to the village and reunite Gansa with his people. Later, Takeru sets up a circle of magic stones and convinces a doubtful Clayston to stand with him. Trusting him, Clayston agrees, and the circle teleports him to Belmonent's mansion, where he brews an antidote that cures Mool instantly, bringing everyone to tears. Takeru returns to the rebuilding village and informs the chief that he has already handed Ingach and all the evidence to the authorities, guaranteeing the corrupt lord's imprisonment. When the chief asks how they can repay him, Takeru shows him butter and soy sauce on a steamed potato. Amazed by the taste, the chief listens as Takeru proposes buying all their soy sauce fruits to expand the fields. Though unsure he can sell everything, the chief agrees, and Takeru explains his plan to make soy sauce popular to major cities so the village can claim it as a specialty. After treating everyone to soy butter potatoes, Takeru leaves and later reunites with Clayston. As they discuss the mission, Halfalpner suddenly appears, transforms into a beautiful girl, and announces she's joining them. Both men stare, and when Clayston asks why a god would follow a reckless human, she says she wants to explore the world and thinks staying with Takeru will be fun. Ready for adventure, she declares her choice, while Takeru senses his life is about to get a lot more chaotic. If you're enjoying the journey of this series, please hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. All of your support helps me to keep bringing more high-quality recaps.